Hello to the judges watching this video. We're a team from HKUST and we're delighted to be presented to you through this video format. My name is Alex.
I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Kevin.
And we have a great big idea that we think you're going to get excited about. We're going to start first by telling you all about our idea and then a bit more about ourselves. To start it off, I'll hand it over to Sean.
Thanks, Alex. The title of our presentation is Cutting Waste, Setting a New Standard for In-Flight Catering. And our main idea is that Cathay Pacific Catering Services can reduce its overall waste of in-flight meal services and greater contribute to its goal of zero net impact. Think about it. Last time you were on a flight and you enjoyed an in-flight meal, how much waste did you actually dispose of? It might be more than you realize. So looking first at packaging, we have aluminum cans, we have plastic surrounding the cutlery that you eat with, and there's even plastic for some of the trays that passengers eat off of. Do we really need all of that packaging? Secondly, looking at single-use items. So there's butter for bread, there's salad dressing, just to name a couple. Sure, airliners might be concerned about hygiene issues in serving butter, for example, out of the package. But at the same time, those small packages contribute a lot to overall waste. And then thirdly, looking at disposable items. Take cutlery, for example. Does every single meal really need a fork, a knife, and a spoon? And is there anything that airliners can do to actually reduce the need for one or more of those cutlery items? It's possible. So we take a final look at this standard airline tray. We see a lot of food, we see a lot of packaging, and we see a lot of plates that are going to contribute to the overall picture of a huge amount of waste. So now I'm going to pass it over to Kevin, who's going to talk about both complications of recycling and also the complications with minimizing waste for airliners.
Thank you, Sean. Now let's take a look at the challenges facing Cathay Pacific Catering Services in their waste reduction efforts. This is classified into two main areas: things that are dealt with on flight or in board, and things that are dealt offline or at the airports. The first challenge for Cathay is the strict regulations of waste on international flights. Cathay has great recycling facilities within Hong Kong that can deal with the inbound flights to Hong Kong and the waste that is accumulated within the flight. They are able to deal with the food waste and can recycle aluminum, plastics, and glass. Conversely, outbound flights, the majority of Cathay flights are bound to the food disposal laws of the arrival destinations. This means they must follow the protocols there, and sending back the waste to Hong Kong is not that cost efficient. Cost may be one factor of bringing trash back to Hong Kong for recycling, but at the same time there is limited storage for recycling on flights. Some statistics we found was that a person on a flight generates more than double the amount of waste than usual. To put this into numbers, a 4-hour flight outbound from Hong Kong with 200 passengers can easily generate 120 kilograms of waste. This amount of weight of waste is quite significant to bring back to Hong Kong just for recycling. The last challenge is with the limited recycling facilities at the airports. Real estate space around airports is quite limited and tend to be reserved for those support roles to the airlines that are deemed most important. Even with recycling facilities around the airport, they tend to be reserved for the local airlines only. The consequence is that most international flights into airports will need to incinerate the waste generated on board. So what does this mean for Cathay Pacific Catering Services? Well, the pain is that they're really bound by the local laws for garbage disposal and recycling on the outbound flights, and that the amount of trash that they generate on board is quite high. Because of the amount of trash they generate, bringing back the waste to Hong Kong for recycling is costly, and we have to deal with things like storage space, hygiene, and sanitation. Criteria for the ideal solution. It is a balance between the left side, things that we want to do, and the right side, things that are economical, that promote zero net impact, and are scalable. The main criteria here is to minimize the waste. But while we are minimizing the waste, we still need to deal with two important factors. One is that it enhances or maintains the current customer experience on board, and at the same time, the flight attendants are able to uphold their service quality. Conversely, we want a solution that is scalable and can work on all Cathay flights. Obviously, we want a solution that promotes zero net impact mission, the goal of this project. Lastly, we want something that is economically sound and that Cathay would be able to implement easily. Now I will pass it on to Alex to talk more about our inspiration and our solution.
Our inspiration for our solution comes from Toyota's approach to lean manufacturing. We were inspired by how Toyota examined every single part of their production process and redefined it to become more efficient. Specifically, we'd like to focus on cutting muda or waste or eliminating the non-value added. So the question that we asked ourselves in examining Cathay Pacific's in-flight catering services was, how do we reduce the amount of waste generated per passenger? Our solution looks at 4 dimensions. First, tray design. We envision compartment-based trays, very much like a bento box, where there's one piece of plastic and a plastic lid. This solution is washable, it's reusable, and it's stylish. Furthermore, you could reduce plastic lids and packaging. Here you see some examples of compartmentalized trays. On the top, you see small boxes of a plastic lid. These could be used for snacks. And on the bottom, you see a bigger tray with different parts of a meal. With a lid, this could be a very nice, stylish way to present in-flight catering. The second dimension we considered are materials. What should our trays be made of? Paper, plastic, or bamboo? We looked at paper and thought, this looks like a good idea. It's biodegradable. However, it's difficult to recycle and requires a lot of energy and water to produce. Furthermore, producing paper takes away a lot of trees from the environment, meaning that there's less carbon monoxide processes available. Then we looked at bamboo. Bamboo is sustainably sourced and is aesthetically pleasing. However, it is expensive and there may be hygiene concerns about reusability of bamboo trays. That left us with plastic. Plastic is reusable, it's comparatively more efficient in the production process, it's cost efficient, and though non-biodegradable, it is fairly durable for reuse in the future. The third dimension considered is food. Is it possible to select types of food to reduce the amount of utensils used as well as the number of containers needed? On the top left corner, you see a taco shell holding a salad. On the bottom right, you see a rice bowl holding vegetables and eggs. On the top left picture, you see finger foods such as wraps, and on the bottom right, you see a soup held in a sourdough bread bowl. These are some ideas that could help us reduce the amount of utensils and containers needed. Last but not least, we considered utensils. Do we really need a full set of utensils on an airplane? Do all passengers use a fork, knife, and spoon? Also, is it necessary to wrap the fork, knife, and spoon and napkin in plastic packaging? We looked across the market to see what's possible, and we discovered a spork. A spork is a combination of a fork and a spoon. In one single utensil, you can do the job of both a fork and a spoon. Also, one might consider spork chops, a combination of a fork, spoon, and chopsticks. These are just some innovative ways to reduce the amount of cutlery and packaging needed.
Thanks, Alex. So now we've gone over the restrictions holding back the airline industry from increasing their recycling efforts. And we've also heard about the ideas our team has come up with. So how do our ideas address the pain that we identified at the beginning of this presentation? Well, firstly, the introduction of reusable trays and covers eliminates the need of disposable plastic covers, wrappings, and aluminum foil. Secondly, this new tray design will be aesthetically pleasing. This is important as it will improve the customer's overall dining experience. Thirdly, food selection, such as sandwiches or wraps, or innovative ideas such as the possibility of using food as a form of containers, can also reduce the need or necessity of utensils. And lastly, sporks can reduce cutlery volume and cost by half. So what is the impact expected? Through offering items such as sandwiches or wraps, as well as adopting sporks, less utensils will be needed, resulting in fewer one-time items and minimizing packaging. This will reduce the overall amount of waste, as well as the waste generated from recyclable items that are not recycled due to regulations on international waste or else because the material itself cannot be recycled. And lastly, this will reduce the volume of waste and recycling, resulting in lighter loads and lower procurement costs. Now I will pass it over to Sean, who will wrap up our presentation.
CPCS can set a new standard for the in-flight catering experience. How can CPCS do this? By eliminating muda, or waste. So our idea is that rather than simply increasing recycling, it is better to eliminate the source of waste from the beginning. Our solution had 4 dimensions: a tray dimension, materials, food selection, and utensils. By incorporating our recommendations, we believe that CPCS can entirely revolutionize the catering experience and reduce the overall amount of waste on board.
And now, about our team from the HKUST MBA program.
Alex is originally from Malaysia, was educated in Singapore, and spent a lot of her adult life in Canada. Alex brings a passion to the classroom, to group work, and especially a passion to the badminton court. Brandon is from Hong Kong originally, but spent a lot of time in Canada and the US as well. Brandon brings an enterprising spirit to the team, along with strong analytical skills. And in this photo, you see he's using his dog, Lady, as a pillow. Sean's an American who's actually spent a lot of time in Latin America and Asia. In this photo, it may look like he's a soccer player, but you see his real heart is actually in basketball. And last but not least, we have Kevin. We actually teased Kevin for his photo because we said he looks like a blind mahjong player, but in reality, we really respect Kevin a lot. He brings strong computing skills, a great sense of humor, and an efficiency that almost nobody can compete with.
This concludes our presentation, and we thank you very much